Okay, we are back with episode 51. I mean, I simultaneously can't believe that this has been going on for 51 episodes, but it also feels like we still have like potentially 50 left, considering how much there is left. We still have Lancer, Caster, we're finishing up Berserker. Anyways, I'm gonna hit don't use it. The wind unravels. I start to see the golden sword in Saber's hand. The one that must not be used. The sword I told her not to use under any circumstances. I snap. It makes the last rope holding Emyashiro snap. Don't use it, Saber! Oh, I command spell her to do it? My left hand is burning. One of my command spell disappears. What? Why? This was the only way now, Shiro. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that you'll disappear if you use that. I won't allow that. I can't forgive myself for not being able to let her use her sword freely, and for not being able to save Tosaka myself. Saber falls to her knees. Just releasing the sword gets her like that? You can't use that sword in your condition. So wait. If you can't use that sword, I'll make one that you can use. If it's an opponent you cannot match in real life, beat it in your imagination. If you cannot beat it yourself, imagine something that you could beat it with. With that said, it's obvious. That's the only thing I can do. So make it. Make something that will not lose to anything. Always imagine the strongest. Imagine the best imitation that will deceive everybody, even yourself. It is not difficult at all. It is not impossible. From the beginning, this body was a magical circuit specialized for this purpose alone. I spring up. My whole body is burning and my left hand feels like it's on fire. What? That sword is my... Saber's voice is filled with blank amazement. She is staring at what I'm holding, which should not exist here. Does the sword have a will of its own? Yo! Let's go! The golden sword does not stop, and as if pulled toward it, slashes through the giant's arm. Tosaka falls with the arm that was grabbing her, and the sword that cut through his arm shatters like glass. All the blood in me regurgitates, but there's no problem there. The sword broke. That is impossible. If I imitated that sword, it cannot be broken. It broke because it was not sufficient. My image of it fell short of the real sword. His eyes stare at me. The giant sword is swung to really kill me this time. I don't care about that. He's not my opponent. For Emyashiro, there's only one opponent. The sword just now wasn't perfect. The unbreakable sword broke because there was a flaw in the assumptions. If I'm to duplicate it, it cannot only duplicate its shape, it must also reproduce the maker. What? Did we just block it? I hear a gasp. In front of me is the axe sword swung like a storm and the defending sword that is being made. I don't know if I am desperate or I'm blocking the attack with the sword in my hand. But that's none of my business. What I need to do now is make this real. Did Shiro just block those? What the freak, dude? That is a mistake as well. Emyashiro was not made for fighting. Your fight is a mental fight. A fight with yourself. I know that without being told. What I must do is simple. Projection. Start. I concentrate. I am challenging myself. No deviation or compromise is allowed. Judging the concept of creation. Hypothesizing the basic structure. Duplicating the composition material. Imitating the skill of its making. Sympathizing with the experience of its growth. Reproducing the accumulated years. Excelling every manufacturing process. Yo! Now, I bind the illusion and make it a sword. Am I dual wielding? Were there two swords there? The giant howls. The sword blocks the numerous blows, smashing madly. But this is it. I'm tossed away. As soon as my consciousness returns, the sword must have left everything in my hands. I'm easily thrown away by the attacks. I was easily blocking until now. The senses in my arms are already gone. My wrist is about to rip off as I can see the red meat. Ugh! My legs won't move. All my muscles must have stopped working. I can't stand up. I made the sword that surpasses Berserker, but that's all. As I am only a maker, I cannot handle the sword. Saber, take the sword! The shadow engulfs me. He must know who he needs to kill first now. Berserker pursues me like a wind, and swings his sword. But his sword is deflected. Oh, this music's so good! As I stand there in blank amazement, I notice another hand over my hand. The air shakes violently. The giant launches an attack with all his might to destroy everything. But just before that, Shiro, your hand! I hear her voice closer than anything. If Berserker attacks me like a gust, Saber must have rushed to me like a gale. Having rushed to me, Saber turns around and... Yo. The sword of rock breaks. A flash of the golden sword smashes the giant axe's sword. Slashes into the hard body and... If the shape is similar, the ability must be similar as well. The golden sword digging deep into Berserker engulfs the giant's body from the inside. But that's only for an instant. The light disappears and silence returns to the forest. Strength departs from my body. The body that was so hot starts to cool down. The sword is disappearing from the tip. I watch it absent-mindedly. We stand next to each other, holding the same sword until it disappears completely. Wind blows through the forest clearing. Neither the howling that shook the ground, nor the blows that cut through the air remain now. So, that is your sword, Saber. Oh! So, that is your sword, Saber. Ah, shoot, I didn't read his lines. The undefeatable giant becomes motionless, and says so in a deep voice, gazing at the knight that defeated him. This is Caliburn, the sword from the Stone of Selection, my sword that was forever lost. But that was not your sword. That was only an illusion made by this man. Saber nods quietly. It was an imitation after all. It is a sword that will never exist again. But still, Berserker's chest splits open. Slowly, from the wound made by that light, he crumbles away like sand. That illusion cannot be underestimated. I did not expect it to destroy my body sevenfold with a single blow. He puts no emotion into his dying words. The mad warrior follows his role until the very end, and his existence disappears as fading into the air. I feel dizzy. It must be the cost of using such excessive magic. My blood that ran wild is crushing my brain with too much oxygen. And on top of that, I have a headache like my head is splitting open. It's because the enemy has disappeared, and the thing rumbling and numbing my pain has disappeared. The dizziness and the headache come at me, as if to make up for what has accumulated. Shiro! Saber supports my collapsing body, but she can't have any energy to spare to care for me. No, I'm fine. My bones are broken here and there, but it's not fatal. The healing thing is working, so it'll be fine. What are you saying? You use projection magic at that level, so you must rest right now. No, but there's someone I have to talk to first. Ilya Sfil. Saber prepares herself. Ilya is staring at the place where Berserker used to be with empty eyes. Good. I do not know your intentions, but we would not wish the trouble of chasing you. Except sure. No! Saber, don't hurt Ilya! Since Berserker's gone, she's... I stop Saber with my remaining strength. She must not realize we're here. Staring at the ground, Ilya murmurs. No way. Did you die, Berserker? She sounds like an abandoned child. Ilya. I restrain Saber with my hand and quietly call out to her. She must have noticed me from that. Ilya slightly raises her head and... suddenly, falls to the ground like a doll being switched off. What? I don't know what's going on. I just stare at the girl on the ground. As to replace her, Tosaka gets up. Berserker's hand has disappeaed, and it seems like she's finally free. I must be relaxing Tosaka's safety. I feel like I'm about to faint. But I can't whine like that. Even though we defeated Berserker, we're still in the forest. We have to push our wounded bodies and get out of this forest now. I look up at the dawning sky. The town is far away, and I cannot find any uninjured allies, nor any place on my own body that's not hurt. But still, we made it to the morning. The night I was prepared not to live through. After driving off the greatest enemy, we leave the winter forest. Oh my gosh. Interval level 14. What does that mean? Oh, oops. The sky is thin. Is it dawn or dusk? As I am watching from outside, I cannot tell. A vast sky and a high field. A sky that seems unreachable, even with arms outstretched. And clouds that do seem reachable, with arms outstretched. This is a battle she once went through. There are no cavalry alongside. The grassland, once golden as far as the eye could see, is gone. Under the dark gray sky, the only thing stretching out is the remains of battle, which she is well accustomed to. There is no emotion. For her, such scenes must have been ordinary. There is nothing left in her lonely heart. Leaning on her golden sword, she breathes deeply once and slowly relaxes her shoulders. The battle must be over. After glancing at the bodies of the defeated soldiers, she returns to her camp. That was the battle she experienced. The calm attitude is the same as now. No matter what trouble she's in, she is just as I know her. And in that way, oh no, I didn't mean to click it. And in that way, I see the dream of a knight. I see the dream of a king. From that moment she drew the sword from the stone, she was not human. After becoming a feudal lord like her father, she became a king with many knights. She was called King Arthur, or Arturia, and the girl who had tried to become a knight had her life turned around. She acted as the son of a king. That is because the one to govern many terrorists and control the knights had to be male. The only ones who knew that the king was just a girl were her father and the Magus. She literally covered herself in steel and sealed that truth away for all her life. Of course, it's not like no one grew suspicious of her, but the King of Knights with the Holy Sword will not suffer wounds or age. Excalibur bears the protection of the fairies, making its possessor immortal. Therefore, nobody questions the knight's small body. The face that seemed like that of a girl became honored by the knights as a good-looking king. Of course, such things were not a problem. The king was truly invincible. There was no room for body size nor looks to enter into it. People living in fear of savage invasions wanted a strong king, and the knights of the battlefield would only follow an excellent commander. The king met all of these criteria, and so no one questioned who the king was. It doesn't matter if the king is a child or a woman. The only point is that it must function as the king to protect the country. The new king was fair and selfless, and always stood in front of the army, defeating enemies on the battlefield. Many enemies and many people died, but the king's choices were always correct, and she served as the king better than anyone else. There was no doubt and no need for doubt while the king was right. Knowing no loss on the battlefield. Excuse me. Her army reconstructed the now lost cavalry, literally ran through the battlefield defeating foreign infantries and crashing through the numerous ramparts. Was she always in the front of the army because her country was behind her? She had to discard many people to join battle. As long as she joined battle, she had to defeat all her enemies. It was normal practice to meet military needs by sucking everything out of the local villages, or the battle protect the country. In that regard, there cannot be any knights that killed more people than her. We do not know if she ever found that a burden. That is not something I can tell from a dream. But there's no doubt in her figure, running through the battlefield. She does not even narrow her eyes in grief when she sits on the throne. The king is not human. One cannot protect the people with human emotions. She kept that oath strictly. She settled every problem that worked hard in government affairs. She balanced the country without any deviations and punished people without a single mistake. and after ending yet another battle and victory, commanding the people without disorder, and punishing hundreds of criminals, King Arthur does not understand human feelings. A knight close to her murmured, "Perhaps everyone felt that way. The more perfect she became as the king, the more they questioned her as a ruler. The person without human emotion cannot rule over others." Several reputable knights left Camelot. The king took it as natural events and accepted it as part of the process of government. Thus, the fair king, honored her by her knights, isolated herself. But such trivial things are of no concern to a king. Her mind will not change, even if she is abandoned, feared, or betrayed. There's no right or wrong. She abandoned her emotions from the moment she decided to pull out the sword. And in that way, her final battle began. The battle at Bandon Hill. Wasn't it no, I don't remember what it was called. It started with a C. The battle at Bandon Hill ended in complete victory. Because of the overwhelming results, the savage sought a reconciliation. Oh, this isn't where she died. The country that would have just awaited destruction earned a brief period of peace. The chaos that demanded an absolute hero has ended. Britain is finally returning to the country she has dreamed of. The scene starts to fade away. Somewhere in my head, I realize that I'm waking up, and the dream is ending. I'll lose consciousness and wake up soon. But before that, something really annoys me. She's stupid. Certainly she must have been strong and good at fighting. That doesn't mean she's well suited for it. I'm also angry at the people around her. If she didn't notice it, someone else around her had to tell her, or she'd keep making the same mistake forever. Jeez, she had so many people around her, so why did none of them tell her the truth? And with that, guys, I think we're going to end the episode. My throat is exhausted from recording 3 episodes back to back to back, one of them exceptionally long. So I am going to end it here. That was pretty freaking great. Again, I think this whole taking down of Ilya section might be my favorite part of the entire visual novel so far. That was great. With that all being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.